Mira a la izquierda. Mira a la derecha. ¿Qué ves? ¿Dónde estás? In a world that seems to change daily, what will you do next? Welcome to the Next Steps Show with Peter Vazquez and co-host Ayesha Kreutz, a starting point for discussion y un poco de dirección. Bienvenidos, soy yo, el conservative Nuyorican, Peter Vazquez, and I'm here today with our extraordinary machine,
Ayesha Kreutz.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Can you believe it's been a week, Ayesha? Oh my gosh.
I can believe it's been a week.
What have you done productive this week? What next steps have you taken this week, Miss Kreutz?
Mostly I have been being worked like a slave by my daughters.
Worked like a slave? Is that whipping on?
Whipping on. You know, my grandmother used to say, I'm going to beat you like I own you. Like whenever I would be bad. I don't think you can say that anymore.
White?
No, well,
I'm
that grandmother was. I do have a white grandmother. One is white, and that would be funny if she knows my black grandma.
That wouldn't be funny.
If my white grandma said it.
If your white grandma... Well, the thing is, I'm sure she would have said it with love. But, you know, in today's world, they'd be like, oh, my gosh, your grandma.
They used to tell me that they would sell me to the Indians, but we're part Native American, too. So, like, the white Native American side, they'd be like, oh, we're going to sell you to the Indians. My black grandmother used to tell me they'd beat me like I own you. You know, I'm going to beat you like I own you. Yeah.
Interesting. No, my parents never said that to me. They just told me to shut the hell up or I'm going to get a spanking or a whipping. Although I remember one time...
A switch?
A switch. I think so, but... No, you know, listen, there's this real thing about, you know, being the youngest child. You kind of get away with murder, close to being an only child. So I do remember my brothers getting spanked and my sisters... And then, really, by the time they got to me, I was like...
How many of you were there?
All right. I was the youngest of five. Yeah. But, you know, I grew up in a household where my father and mother, we took care of my grandmother. She lived with us along with my uncle who was mute or deaf. Mm-hmm. And then it was the five of us. So I've always lived in a big family. And my parents weren't like this overly religious, you know... I mean, when they reared us, they didn't rear us by beating us with the Bible, right? They reared us in what was right or wrong. However, my parents always led us to understand, you know, to teach us that it doesn't really matter what you do when, not what you do. There's always someone looking. And I would, you know, so I would look around and I swear I thought they had cameras throughout the city back in the 80s because they always knew what I was doing. But he would always say, listen, God sees you. So it doesn't really matter whether I see you. I says, God sees you. And what you're doing that's wrong will come to light. And that's what kept me from jumping over the edge or from doing anything kind of silly, because I swear to God, my father would have these conversations with God, because how else would he know some of the things that I was not doing?
That way in any way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Mr. Voice of Liberty yourself, how are you today, sir?
I'm just marvelous. We're having a great morning here. You two are at each other's throats, so we know all's right with the world.
That is,
and that's nice. We have a great guest in studio and one waiting patiently on hold. I just want to remind you, don't forget about Marley.
To stop talking and get on interview.
Marley.
Can't forget about Marley.
No, absolutely not.
Amazing.
So,
bring her on.
So, Roberto is correct. We do have some great people here that we're going to be talking to today. We've had them on the show before, back in November 4th, as a matter of fact. But these are the leaders of New York Citizens Audit, which is a dedicated group dedicated to restoring and maintaining the essential founding American principles of honest, provable elections. Gosh, what a concept. In New York State and across the nations. Ladies and gentlemen, in studio we have Kim Hermance. a founding member and a director of auditny.com, which is New York Citizen Audits. Their website is auditny.com, serving as statewide coordinator and organizer for the county strike team. You'll have to tell us more on what that is. And on the phone, we have their executive director, the fearless leader, the lady who goes around working diligently and hard, and
the big boss with a hot sauce.
The big boss, the champion or a champion of individual liberty, Marley Hornik. Ladies, welcome to the Next Step Show.
Thank you for having us. It's so exciting to be here again.
Oh, the pleasure is ours.
Go ahead, Marley. You're on.
No, I just wanted to say thanks. You know, it's really great to have people who want to talk about what a precious jewel our country is, America, and how are we going to protect this precious jewel? How are we going to save America? You know, it's a fact under the law that the right to choose our representatives and thus live by laws we ourselves approve is a guaranteed civil right of every citizen, and it is the accuracy of our elections that protects our liberty. And so we're here to talk about that because our elections are provably inaccurate. So we're having a crisis of governance here in New York, as if you didn't notice.
Yep, and here in the Next Step Show, we want to talk about what next steps we can take. What is the problem? What's going on? We've identified it, and how can we, as a community, as a nation, come together to make sure that we're holding accountable those that are cheating this system?
I was going to say one thing we can all do is we can all step up and join in. Citizenship has responsibility, and that's more than just checking the box in elections in November. It means getting involved in the process, getting involved in helping promote honest, provable elections in New York State and in our nation.
Absolutely, and we've got about 55 minutes that we're going to spend talking on that, talking what you guys have found, elaborating, building on our conversation from back in November. But before we go too much further, can you tell us, Marley, you'll probably be the one that can answer this or should answer this, right? But New York Citizens Audit, can you tell us about the organization to remind our listeners who you are, why was it founded, and what's your mission and your vision? What's the purpose of auditny.com?
Well, New York Citizens Audit is an all-volunteer organization that formed in July of 2021. We came together as a loosely affiliated group of citizen researchers from across New York State, Montauk to Buffalo. We requested copies through the Freedom of Information Law process, through a legally verifiable process. We have provenance on all our documents. We requested copies of the state voter roll database called NYS Voter, and we requested copies of all 62 county voter roll databases, and we received many of those. And we began searching them for information, comparing them with the law, basically. So if an eligible voter has to have an address, we started asking NYS Voter how many registered voters don't have an address and how many of them voted in the 2022 general election. And the numbers would actually shock you. There were over 27,000 people who voted in 2020 with no address. We look for all kinds of information like that, comparing the law to what is actually in NYS Voter. The reason we did that is that NYS Voter, according to federal law, and this is civil rights law now, NYS Voter is the official record regarding the administration and certification of all federal elections in New York State. So the problem that the New York State Board of Elections has, which New York Citizens Audit uncovered over 2 years of volunteer research efforts, extremely diligent efforts, and we'll talk about recent information come out to verify that, in fact, it's true. New York Citizens Audit researchers are some of the best in America. We discovered that basically the New York State Board of Elections has multiple times has certified elections that are provably inaccurate and massively inaccurate. The 2020 general election was certified. Certification means we swear and attest personally and in our official capacity that this election was perfectly accurate and unwaveringly followed the law.
Jeez.
But for some reason, there were 338,356 more votes cast than voters who voted, according to their own data. Now, I ask you, if you went to the bank and $338,000 disappeared from your bank account, would you give the bank the benefit of the doubt when they tell you it's a clerical error?
I wouldn't leave the bank until they fixed the clerical error. Hey, Marley, I want to read one of your election facts here, and this is for Livingston County. I was reading. It says Livingston County voter rolls maintained by the New York State Board of Election demonstrate that there are 1,186 duplicate Board of Election ID numbers assigned, 12 of which voted.
Right. So that issue right there is the one that we sometimes call clones. It's tricky to find the right language for the situation, but basically federal law and state law regarding the voter registration databases is clear. It says each legally registered voter can have one unique statewide identifier, meaning one State Board of Elections ID number, for their voting life. So in Livingston County, there were, whatever you said, I guess about 1,100 when we did that research in 2021. Statewide, we found 1.1 million unique individuals that had been assigned 2.4 million unique state ID numbers. And when we met with one of the county commissioners of a Board of Elections in New York, this guy said, yeah, the problem with having more than one state voter ID is that a person could cast more than one vote. Of course, they could only do it in this circumstance if they had back-end access and administrative right. They had the administrative credentials to actually write information into the NYS voter database. So we're not looking at a situation with voter fraud. We're looking at official misconduct of some sort.
Right, an intentional act.
Correct.
Marley or Kim, can you tell us, and to clarify again for our listeners so that everybody understands, it's been some time you have shared this, what exactly are the voter, how do you become a voter? What are the qualifications? Are there any?
Yes, there are. It's specific in, of course, in the Constitution, but also under New York State law. And I will defer that to Marley because she probably has that right at her fingertips, exactly what it is. But I know in New York State.
The very first and most fundamentally important qualification is that you have to be a citizen of the United States of America. And we have a problem in New York State because the verification of your citizenship status is an honor system. So under federal law, no one is allowed to be registered and to appear in the official record of registered voters in New York if they are not already proven to be a U.S. citizen. This is the first and foremost critical eligibility qualification. And there's no reasonable or valid check of citizenship status in New York State before people are added to the database. The only thing that you have to do is you have to say, yes, I'm a citizen. And in fact, at this point now, because we have online registration coming from multiple state agent websites, there is no check on that whatsoever. It's automatic registration. So if you go, let's say you're on Medicaid, and you go to the website, the state website, and you're updating your information there, because you're interacting with that website, unless you opt out, a brand new registration for you to vote is sent over to that county's Board of Elections automatically. There is no more, you don't even check the box and attest that you're a citizen. So this is the first completely broken part of our election process. And it's a huge issue because we've found over 5.8 million clear violations of black letter election law, registration violations in NYS voter. That's greater than the entire population of the state of Wisconsin. This is not, we're totally out of the realm of clerical error. Mm-hmm. And there's no meaningful check on the citizenship status of every single one of those registration records. This is a crisis for America. They're not allowed to let people vote or even register who are not proven to be citizens of the United States of America. Then you have to have an address. You have to have lived at that address for a minimum of 30 days. You have to be 18 years old. In New York, you can be pre-registered at age 16, but you can't actually, your registration isn't rendered active until your 18th birthday. There's a couple other qualifications. You have to have, if you don't own your whole building, you have to have an apartment number or a floor number like that. It's very specific. I mean, if you think about districting fights that happen, right, the battles over districting between the Republican and Democrat parties, all of a sudden you realize how important your address is in your voter registration record to those two parties. So if you don't have one or if it's incomplete, you are not eligible to vote yet.
And yet,
last week I shared a statement. It was a quote. It was, "Beware of false knowledge. It is more dangerous than ignorance." And I can't think of another situation that this quote is more fitting about. Right, like if we're not paying attention, if we're not looking and listening. So you were here last November. You had a lot of information. You found a lot of inconsistencies. You've been trying to share this out. You've been trying to get the attention of people that to look at this. Tell us about what's going on with that since the last time you were here.
Well, one of the efforts we've got going that I'm super proud of as the volunteer coordinator of the state is our resolution process. So we have teams all over New York State bringing a resolution for the audit of the 2022 election to their town boards, asking them to say yay or nay, are you for honest, provable elections? And it's been amazing creating, it's educational because there's people listening, there's people in the audience. We're handing out our summary sheets too, but then we're also putting our elected officials on notice. And these elected officials, our town boards, are the closest to us. They're us. They're from our communities, and it's super important.
So we're talking to Kim Hermance with Audit New York. So how are we doing at the local level now, Kim? Are we making headway with the county legislatures or the county governments in the towns where people are actually starting to take this issue seriously? Because there's kind of a natural resistance to this in that you're dealing with local election commissioners, and this can reflect unfavorably on them. I would think that would maybe cause some resistance.
We are going to our Board of Elections locally, but the issues in Nice Voter, that's a statewide voter database, and we believe that in many cases the counties don't realize what's happening at the state level, and I'll let Marley address that.
Well, yeah, I would say what's going on is that people across New York State, whether they're just citizen voters or officials, they are starting to learn about our information for the first time. And one thing I want to talk about that's going on right now regarding our coverage, actually right at this moment, is that we just had a huge validation of our efforts unrolled nationally. And because one of the things that people are asking us across New York State, whether it's at the local level, the county level, or our state level officials, because we recently did, actually on May 1st, we did a presentation for our New York State legislative election law committees, so the Assembly and the Senate. We got them together. They said, well, we don't have a meeting for everybody together, so set up an event and we'll come over. And we did. We had an event. Actually, we used one of their own conference rooms in the Legislative Office building, and we gave them a presentation end-to-end about what New York Citizens Audit has uncovered regarding the databases. So that question about it always comes up is how do we know we can trust your research and your analysis? Because the truth is, you have to be able to open up the databases and know how to query them, whether you're working for the Board of Elections or not. So otherwise, you're just going to have to take someone's word for it. So what happened that's so exciting, and it was published on Wednesday, is that one of the research projects New York Citizens Audit did that proves that actually our NYS voter database has been breached. It's literally in what is called by cyber intelligence experts a total loss of control data breach. And that research project was peer-reviewed and published by a scientific journal. Nice. The journal is called the Journal of Information Warfare. And so basically what's just taken place and is now kind of blowing up all over Twitter. If you're following New York Citizens Audit News on Twitter or Marley Hornik on Twitter, you're seeing this. We have millions of views now on this story that basically says game is up because New York Citizens Audit researchers have been peer-reviewed and scientifically published. It's no longer our word against theirs. Our data is real and it's correct.
Well, which is great because
that's going to affect at every level. It's affecting nationally, but all these folks at the local level who are wondering, can we trust these numbers? Now they know, yes, they can trust those numbers.
Big step. That's fantastic. Marley Hornik with Audit New York is on the Next Step show. Go ahead, Ayesha. You're going to say something.
No, I was just that's what I was going to say. That's even though. Legislators, different people that we've talked to that have been in here, whenever we bring this up, me and Peter were always doing political things, and that's always been, they're like, well, and, we always like, well, do your own research then. If you don't want to believe theirs, all of the information is there. So this is great news, and for the everyday person as well, right? For them to be able to look and say, this is, it's just like anything, medical field, something has been peer reviewed, it's been proven, and now you can go out there and say, listen, this isn't just, the amount of work that's been put into this by this group has been absolutely amazing, and now to have that come to fruition, I'm very excited for you. And you're listening to Peter Vazquez and Ayesha Kreutz on WYSL on the Next Step show, and we will be right back after these messages with New York Citizen Audit.
Rock On Harley-Davidson and Rock On Power Sports, West Henrietta Road. Shop the greatest selection of legendary Harleys and save big on a wide array of used bikes. And Rock On Power Sports has rides from Honda, Kawasaki, and Yamaha. Rock On has a helpful staff to save you big money. The Rock On Service Department has expert technicians and a great supply of parts to get and keep you on two wheels. WYSL listeners get $500 off used motorcycles while supplies last. Rock On has side-by-sides, ATVs, and jet boats, too. Anything that's fun and goes fast. On and off-road and on the water, shop the all-new Rock On first. Rock On Harley-Davidson and Rock On Motorsports, 2600 West Henrietta Road. Open Tuesday through Saturday. Call 424-2120. Visit rockonharleydavidson.com.
Hi, this is attorney Christine Demo Vazquez. For more than 18 years, I've provided quality legal services tailored to the unique needs of each of my clients. I take the time to educate my clients about the law, explain the legal process, listen carefully, answer questions, and keep my clients informed throughout the process.
An attorney who understands the complexities of the family court system. Call attorney Christine Demo Vazquez at 585-427-0675. 585-427-0675.
87,000 new IRS agents are coming after small businesses and the middle class. We need your help putting the Internal Revenue Service out of business for good. We need to find candidates who will promise to work towards replacing the income tax with a fair tax. If you're willing to make phone calls and meet with candidates in person to secure their support for the fair tax, contact Fair Tax New York at 585-944-0588. Make a difference. Call today.
Next Steps with Peter Vazquez and Ayesha Kreutz on the WYSL stations.
Dueña de un barrio pobre del centro de la ciudad. Ella de clase alta para decir verdad.
Welcome back to the Next Step Show with Peter Vazquez and Ayesha Kreutz in studio. We have the Honorable Kim Hermance, and on the phone we have... Who do we have again?
The Honorable Marley Hornik.
Marley Hornik, absolutely. Hey, check this out. Monroe County voter rolls maintained by New York State Board of Elections demonstrate that at least 2 people voted who were deceased.
It's probably typical, right, Kim?
Man.
I think it's...
I hope my death has that much influence.
They're saying only 2.
We have a lot of people voting who are deceased, but actually it's nothing compared to the other categories of invalid voters voting. In the 2020 general election statewide, New York Citizens Audit discovered in NYS Voter, the official record, 740,396 votes cast by registration records that are invalid. They're ineligible according to the law. So they have flaws with their registration that are clear on their face, and yet they were allowed to vote. So 750,000 votes were allowed through the system without verifying those aspects of their registration. Some of those things could have been repaired. It's possible, but it's an unknown. You see, when the certifiers of an election sign that document saying, yes, everything in this election, everything regarding the administration of this election is accurate and provable, auditable, and was unwaveringly following the law, that's an official statement. And when you find 740,000 votes that don't comport with that statement, you're looking at a circumstance where the person who certified that election committed perjury.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's perjury. And it's not like a little perjury, because you're talking about defrauding the entire population of New York State. And when you're talking about a federal election, you're defrauding the United States, the people of America, all of them.
Right, and the way that this actually plays in, Kim, we were talking in between the, commercial, but and this affects you in a very personal way, Kim.
Yes, because 750,000 irregular votes affected 95 state and federal elections in 2020. And that directly affects each and every one of us, because we can't tell in these races who actually won. And these people are making laws. They're voting on laws that affect every one of us each and every day. So look at all of the issues that are affecting New Yorkers right now, and they are directly related to our elections and the irregularities that we found.
New York Citizens Audit. Their website is auditny.com. Marley, Kim, I want to read something else on your website that I'd like you to clarify for me if you can. Under you have a great website. I love the way you broke it down by counties. And after this question, I have another question in regards to county because, man, I'm just excited at what you guys are doing. But there it says, analysis of the voter turnout in Monroe County using the Dr. Frank age and turnout method reveals a six-factor polynomial constant can predict the voter turnout by age with 99% degree of accuracy. And then it says, this demonstrates that the turnout records are not organic. Can you explain that?
Absolutely. So basically what Dr. Frank did, and this was back in 2021, he discovered that the number of voters or the percentage of voters by age in every county across a state was exactly the same. But if you cross the state line, all of a sudden it would be a new percentage by age. So let's say you're 52 years old. That means that all 52-year-olds, 34% of them turned out to vote across the entire state. So, there were no other mitigating factors. It's just exactly how 52-year-olds vote. So, in fact, what this demonstrates for New York is pretty epic, because on the one hand, it's a statistical study that's interesting. On the other hand, now that we have proven and validated via peer review and scientific publication that the NYS voter database is being manipulated on the back end, it's a total loss of control data breach. There's a lot more supporting. It's not exactly evidence, but there's clear support to uphold an argument that it could have been manipulated that way by age. But again, that's an interesting statistical study, but it's not evidence. Like the way we've discovered those 740,000 votes that were cast by ineligible registrants, that's evidence. That's in NYS Voter right now. We can make you a list of every single one of those registrations. That's not statistics, and it's not any kind of analysis. It's just counting. Mm-hmm. It's just identifying, ineligible registrations by law and counting them. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's evidence.
Can you guys, you said you've gone to county, you're looking for this resolution. Can you describe for our listeners how that experience is going county by county? Is one county receiving you better or more receptive than another? I mean, and when you look at the voter turnout maps, for example, after an election, you'll see just about all of Western New York is red as far as voter turnout, except for two counties, and that's Monroe and Erie. And we've got, Ayesha, we know the fraud that's behind there. But can you tell us county by county, how are they receiving you, if you can?
Well, I can tell you that...
The first thing I want to say about that is that our strike team members are incredible, amazing patriots and human beings. And they're coming and getting training with New York Citizens Audit. They're getting trained in election law, and they're getting trained in these anomalies. And this is open to any citizen of New York State who wants to participate. They're getting trained in what I call putting on their cap. They go to these boards and they speak calmly, accurately, and powerfully about the facts of our election system, and their impact is like immeasurable. And I want to let Kim take it from here, but I just want to give a shout out to the amazing hundreds, if not thousands, of volunteers across New York State who are participating in this on a daily basis, and you could be a part of that too.
Yeah, so basically what you just do is you go to our website, auditny.com. Right on that first page, you can click on request a resolution. You have to look up ahead of time the town board that you're going to, who the members are, who the supervisor is, their correct spelling of their name. You input that into the form, and we send you back a beautiful, completed resolution that you can then take to your town. And across New York State, we have 158 requested across 32 counties, and we have 14 signed so far, and many more in the process of getting signed. And our volunteers are just, learning how to approach their towns and take back their sovereignty.
So we're looking at 38% right now of those that are being presented, that are being accepted. Kind of,
it's a process. So you go.
They're being signed off on.
Well, you go into your town and you present the data and the information. You present the resolution, and then you have to come back a couple weeks later for the next meeting. Sometimes they want more information. Sometimes you end up at a working meeting. But we're all in that process, and I know there's a number of them that should be signed shortly. But even if they say no, that's information too. Then you also know exactly where your town board stands, and you can work towards that in your community.
Do we have that number too? Those who somehow where people by their county can say, "Hey, this has been presented. They went through all of these different steps, and this county said no." Is that something that?
So we're at the town level at this point in time. It's under something called home rule. And so hopefully when we get a number of towns in each county, then we bring it to the legislature. And then we also have our effort at the state level. As Marley mentioned, we presented May 1st to the election law committees. We were there in January as a group delivering our summary sheet with all the facts to, and I don't remember the exact number, but I want to say it was something, close to 80 or so legislators, and we met with them in person back in January, giving them this information. Marley might have that exact number of who we saw.
Marley, did you have a response to that?
Hey, sorry, I had muted because I was trying to help my daughter with her violin lesson. If you can believe it.
Okay.
For Monroe County, has it been presented?
We distributed about, I think, 83 copies of our official report, the New York State 2020 General Election, a Study in Deficits. You can read that. You can read that report yourself. You don't have to wait for your legislators to tell you what it said. If you go to auditny.com/documents. That report is there, New York's 2020 General Election, a Study in Deficits, which details, it's actually very detailed, very fascinating report comparing election law to what we found in NYS Voter regarding the 2020 election. And yeah, we distributed 83 copies of that, and then we set up this amazing meeting. I mean, it was just outstanding with the election law committees of the Assembly and Senate. Unfortunately, it looks like we're not getting any commitment from them. The chairs of those two committees are Zelnor Myrie, is the chair of the Senate Election Committee, and I'm blanking on her name right now. Kim will remember. Latrice Walker is the chair of the Assembly Election Law Committee. We're not getting any commitment out of either one of them to take this out of committee, bring it to the floor of the New York State Legislature, and get a vote on allocating the funds to audit this agency end to end, the New York State Board of Elections, because, it is our civil right to provable, accurate elections. In the words of Thomas Paine, in America, the law is king. Who passes the laws and who enforces the laws? Our representatives. How are they chosen? Through immaculately, unwaveringly lawful elections, because the people who are granted that authority for whatever temporary period they hold it couldn't be more important to securing our future and to defining our culture. And so there can be no question. In fact, here's the point I like to make. A lot of people think about elections in the same kind of way we think about a playoff game. We think, oh, here's the two teams, they're up to the final level, and now the umpire is going to sit behind home plate and tell us which of these pitches are balls and which of these pitches are strikes, and some of them I'm not going to agree with how the umpire calls it, but I'm going to have to live with it. That's not the right way to think about elections. No. Our election officials are not umpires. They are servants, loyal, steadfast servants, unwaveringly following a very complex set of laws that governs every single aspect about the administration of our elections. Why is it complex, and why does it govern every aspect? Because it's part of our national security infrastructure. It has to be exact. In fact, the error rate that's allowable for a federal election is 1 in 10 million ballot positions. It's extremely stringent. So when they make these kind of, quote, clerical errors and they wave their wand and say, hey, don't worry about it, we've got it. Don't worry about those 1.25 million violations of election law. Don't worry about those 740,000 invalid votes. Don't worry about those because we're doing our best. It's a hard job and we're doing our best. No, that's incorrect. They are not umpires. They are stewards of a system that has to be exact.
Yeah. Following up on Marley's metaphor here, this is not balls and strikes, ladies and gentlemen. This is another whole ball game taking place in another stadium where you're not even present, and that's going to determine the outcome of the game. We don't want that, I don't think. Peter.
Just St. Lawrence County, 710 duplicate Board of Election IDs that were assigned. 47 of them voted. 7 people voted in St. Lawrence County that were deceased. Yeah, this is
not just happening in the big cities. This is happening, right, Kim? I mean, this is happening. Yeah, it's a universal thing.
It's a universal thing. It's in every county. I mean, elections are a reflection of our national values, an integral part of our national security. And election laws are supposed to protect our election system. And if it's violated, if our officials don't follow the law, the election process is now open to security breaches and potential fraud.
And when you think about who's in charge of your Board of Elections, countywide, statewide, these aren't, again, elections matter, folks. These are appointed positions.
Yeah.
They are not even elected positions. So, I can tell you from, personal experience, there are election commissioners that in various counties that are not doing a good job. And that is a direct reflection of whoever the chairman and your legislature is in your county. So again, from every single level, whether it is part of you being part of your local committee or whether it is part of you making sure that you're getting out there and holding your legislators accountable, it all matters, right? That's why this is so important from the lowest level fundamentally.
Suffolk County, 64,636 duplicate Board of Election ID numbers assigned, 388 which voided. Insanity. Luis Martinez will call it evil. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is sponsored in part by Christine Dimo Vazquez, an attorney committed to providing the highest quality legal services. You're listening to the Next Step Show on the WYSL stations. We'll be right back.
Eyes in Rochester is a full-service ophthalmology office, and we specialize in general ophthalmology, taking care of people from childhood to adult and seniors. We do general eye exams. We specialize in cataract surgery, corneal surgery, and disease, as well as LASIK surgery. We also have a full-service optical shop and contact lens fitting service.
Visit Eyes on Rochester at 1157 Fairport Road.
The fair tax replaces the income tax and abolishes the IRS for good. But that's not going to happen if the current crop of politicians have their way. Fair Tax New York is looking for motivated citizens who are willing to contact candidates and get them to sign the Fair Tax Pledge, promising to push for fair tax if elected. Call Fair Tax New York at 585-944-0588. That's 585-944-0588. Make that call today.
Youth for Christ Rochester, a youth development organization in downtown, is dedicated to changing city kids' lives through life and relational leadership coaching and finding their purpose and destiny in Christ. Now, in addition to our Friday night basketball and P31 Girls, the Fatherhood Initiative, Summer Camp, we've added YFC Arts Academy. To get connected or find out more, check out our Facebook page at Youth for Christ Rochester or go to yfcrochester.org/donate.
Hi, this is attorney Christine Dimo Vazquez. For more than 18 years, I've provided quality legal services tailored to the unique needs of each of my clients. I take the time to educate my clients about the law, explain the legal process, listen carefully, answer questions, and keep my clients informed throughout the process.
An attorney who understands the complexities of the family court system. Call attorney Christine Dimo Vazquez at 585-427-0675. 585-427-0675.
Peter Vazquez and Ayesha Kreutz, the Next Step Show on the WYSL stations.
Onondaga County, 5,916 duplicate Board of Election IDs assigned, 149 voted. Onondaga County, at least 20 people voted that were deceased. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Next Step Show. In studio, we have the leaders of New York Citizens Audit, their website, auditny.com. In studio, we have the amazing, the honorable Kim Hermance. And on the phone, we have their fearless leader, their executive director, Marley Hornik. Welcome back, ladies.
Thank you.
Welcome.
What it comes down to, actually, is voter rolls must be accurate, which is one of our 3 basic tenets. Votes counted must be from qualified voters, and the number of votes must equal the number of voters. And that's law, election law.
Yeah, and, we got these, if anyone likes to even be more in the know, our Federalist Papers, they went through to determine, our founding fathers back and forth about, again, even like the citizenship aspect of things, right? I mean, you had a whole contingent, even though we have it today as well. It's like, it shouldn't matter, right? And it was more state by state whether or not you had to be a citizen or not in order to vote. The Federalist Papers came about, they had the argument, they went, and we decided as a nation, you have to be a citizen, right? And so each of these things aren't just like arbitrary laws that just, people came about. There was a lot of input from our founding fathers, from the foundation of our nation on what it means to have fair elections, right? And again, go back, read these I think it's like Federalist Paper, like 59, 60, to like 87, something like that. That you can go back and read, and some people might think that's boring, but I love that stuff. But it's important so that you can see how the rationale came about these things.
Right. Our founding fathers, Madison, for example, spent thousands of hours looking at history and civilizations and government and came up with our Constitution. I mean, it's incredible how much work and effort and sacrifice, this is Memorial Day weekend, how much sacrifice the citizens in the past, and we owe it to them. I'm a military mom. My son served in the military, and he's a civilian now, but he still works in support of the Air Force. And this is our republic, our constitutional republic that's at stake. We have to have, and we've got to get our elections correct.
Absolutely. Audit NY leaders. What was the name of that journal that was peer reviewed? Where your article was peer reviewed again? Just want to make sure we got it right.
The Journal of Information Warfare.
And that's such an appropriate. Now, can we talk? We have a few minutes left on the show. Can we talk a little bit about that that database breach? You referred to it as a loss of control. What does that mean? Can you define that?
I can, because it's defined under federal law. It means that the actual steering wheel of the database, who's actually in control of the database, is not the people who believe they're managing it. So there's every possibility that despite their arrogance, and they are, frankly, very arrogant, the New York State Board of Elections is not the one actually doing this manipulation. They may believe that their excuses are adequate and their effort is sufficient, and that they really are doing a good job, to the best of their understanding, to manage Nice Voter. And the actual steering wheel is not anywhere within their sight or their awareness or their control. That's what a total loss of control data breach means. It means the people who think they're in charge of the data are not. Some other things that it means that the data is now destroyed. There is no more what they call, this is what information assurance experts call data integrity, which means that you can't trust any information in Nice Voter. You can't trust the spelling of names. You can't trust the birth dates. You can't trust the registration dates. You can't trust the presence of a vote or the absence of a vote. And interestingly, this actually validates our research, which shows time and again that none of this actually makes sense. And we can provide thousands and thousands and thousands of examples where it doesn't make sense. And finally, what a total loss of control data breach means is that that database is unrecoverable. This is what federal law says. The data is actually destroyed, and it cannot be recovered. There's no way to use Nice Voter again lawfully to administer and certify a federal election. But I promise you that the New York State Board of Elections right now has absolutely no plans to rebuild Nice Voter before 2024. So one thing that New York Citizens Audit is doing is we are aggressively fundraising for our litigation. We really need your help. If you want us to be able to hold these people accountable, you've got to pitch in and help. We now have the peer-reviewed support of cyber intelligence experts at the highest level in the Journal of Information Warfare saying, yep, this is ready for court, basically. This is true, it's accurate, and this is very good quality research. And frankly, it's shocking. So we really need the help of people. If you go to auditny.com, there's a donate button. We're a 501c3, so your donations are tax deductible. We need to hold these people accountable because I promise you they're not rebuilding Nice Voter. Those legislators said, nah, we're not planning to do anything about this.
And this is
so they're really going to stand down. They're going to stand down on an unknown entity controlling our voter roll database and possibly controlling the outcome of our election.
And this is a nonpartisan group as well, folks. So, don't, she said, this is not something, he said, she said, one political talking point to another, regardless of what, your, political affiliation, your economic status, protest, whatever it is. We have a very diverse group of listeners here. And, if this is ringing true for you, again, you need to go get on there and help volunteer, and you need people from all walks of life in order to really hold our elected officials accountable in this way through this group.
Westchester County, 98,784 duplicate Board of Election ID numbers assigned, 321 which voted. Ladies, I know that you can't really get into the politics of things, and it shouldn't be, because this isn't. It's political, but it's not politics.
We represent the people.
But I am curious, though. Have you noticed the trend in the counties that you're working with, or at least in the information that you're seeing by county, where left-leaning or right-leaning county? So if it's a Republican-run county or a Democrat-run county, are you seeing more discrepancies in one over the other as it pertains to their political leadership?
We have a couple counties that really stick out very badly. That's the 5 boroughs, Long Island and Erie County. What I will say to you is, if we go back to that baseball analogy, what it looks like is there's one team that gets 3 strikes and you're out. The other team is granted 4 strikes and you're out. And everybody's okay with it on both teams.
Yep.
And I don't know why, but that's what it looks like.
Yep.
Wow. Chautauqua County, 1,979 duplicate Board of Election ID numbers assigned, 30 voted. Hey, what next steps? What advice can you give to our listeners for them to get activated? I like to say, to become the leaders that God has intended us to be, but also to become the volunteers that your organization needs to be able to become part of your strike force, to be able to donate and be able to get the funds that we need to force New York State to rebuild this voter database.
It's our website. Go to auditny.com. If you want to volunteer, click on the volunteer tab, fill out the form, and either myself or my co-director or one of our county leads will contact you. Donations, we really need that. This is Memorial Day weekend. Can you sacrifice just a little bit every month to help support an effort to hold our election officials accountable? And if you're interested in the resolution process, as I mentioned before, that's, again, at auditny.com. Just look at that resolution. There is one on there already filled out that you can read and see, and then request one for your own town.
And Kim, you have a full-time job, correct?
Yeah, I run my own business.
So, because we're talking about next steps and next step advice, and I know that a lot of times people are like, you have family, kids, grandkids, jobs, all of these things that are there, and where do you find the time? And I like the word you use, sacrifice, right? There's because in these type of things, next steps sometimes is just making that next step to say, I'm going to commit.
I'm going to commit. That's right. And the one thing I have to say, since I began this journey with Marley back in July of 2021, I've been at the edge, if not beyond my comfort zone most of the time. But that's how we grow.
That's right.
That's how we get stronger. And that's how we become better citizens, because citizenship has responsibility.
Marley, Kim, you guys are some of the most amazing people that we've met. I am honored to call you both honorable. You're welcome back anytime. Thank you. That's auditny.com. Check them out, donate, and volunteer. Hey, Bob, I think it's time for...
Now, Free Soup with Ayesha Kreutz.
On March 23rd, 1775, when Patrick Henry spoke the now famous phrase, "Give me liberty or give me death," to arouse the Second Virginia Convention to arms against the tyranny of Great Britain, he noted that we have done everything that could be done to avert the storm, which is now coming upon us. During the critical years of 1765 and 1776, the American colonies had been forced to endure taxation without representation, searches and seizures without probable cause, the confiscation of firearms, and so on. Though the colonial leaders had tried to remain loyal to the crown and reconcile their differences, they were finally compelled to break away in revolt.
auditny.com. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to go there. You've got to reach out to Kim. You've got to reach out to Marley. Ladies, be a leader. Share with us. Advertise with us. NextStepShow.com. Que tengan una semana bendecida. We appreciate you. And next week, join us with our guest, the Honorable Dr. Michael Reckenwald. He's an author. There's like 12 or something books. Most recently, The Great Reset and Struggle for Liberty, unveiling the global agenda. We'll see you in a week.
No soy niño empedernido, no me juzgues, te lo pido. Reconoce que el amor llegó esta vez. Soy cara de niño.